My name's Debra Wright, and I am 59 years old. So the difference between how we approach age here and Trinidad is that in Canada, adults or people that are aging, they still live life. Like, you still work a lot more, you have a lot more fun, I think. But in Trinidad, as you begin to age, at 50, people start saying, oh, I'm getting old. I'm like, what? That makes no sense. And as a child growing up, I thought my aunt at 40 was old until I got to 40. And I realized, oh no, I'm not old. So yeah, that's one of the differences I realized. It's the mindset about aging. One of the things that I'm really proud of in the last little while that I have done is travel to Africa, because it's something I wanted to do. I wanted to be on the continent, and I got to do 3 countries in Africa, as well as I just finished publishing my last 2 books. So, yeah. What bothers me about people's assumption of age is they think that when you start getting older, that you are less of a citizen, I think, because I've seen a lot. I've worked in the healthcare field as well, and I've seen where as people get older, their families sort of throw them to the side, and I don't think that's right, because they've lived their life to support you, and when you get to a certain age, it's like you're nobody, and it happens a lot, especially in this society, so. Well, that's a great question. My relationship with age has absolutely changed, because one of the things that I found is that I'm not old. I don't think about myself as old. Yes, I've got pains in my knees, I've got pains all over my body, but when it comes to the aging process, I still feel that I can do a lot more. And I look at my mother, who is 81 years old this year, and that woman is still going like, you won't believe. So when I look at her and I look at myself, I'm like, okay, girl, when you get to be her age, you'll still be pretty young, and as long as I have health, I'm good. So that's how I view, that process of aging right now. I'm not old. My age is getting up there, but my mind is still intact, and, give or take the body, but I'm okay with it. A meaningful encounter that has stayed with me. How do I share this one? So when I was 17, I met a gentleman that was the love of my life. We never got married or anything like that, but he was 17 years older than me. And parents, they don't want that, right? But that connection has stayed with me my whole life, even till today. It's just, I don't know what that is. I look at him aging, because I see him every so often, but it stayed with me. And it's sad because he's in the Caribbean, and the way the Caribbean thinks about age, I see that. And that's very stark for me, because it's like, you were such a vibrant person. What has happened to you? And that is stuck in my memory. I can't get rid of that. Yeah. As a child, growing up, I was the life of my house. I did all the parties, everyone's birthday. I was very outgoing. Everybody in my neighborhood knew me. They know Debra, they know Debbie. I used to go by Debbie. Everybody knew Debbie. And if you ever go to the Caribbean, on the streets, like, people pass by and they would call you like, Debbie! And my mom would say, girl, you're so popular. I was always that popular person, like in the house, outside, everybody knew who I was. And as I've grown older, it's still the same way. I mean, it may have softened a bit, but I'm still very much that person. I love to entertain. I could still be the life of the party. I do a lot in the community. And, so I brought that essence of who I was as a young person, as a child, and I brought that into my everyday life, so that I'm like a magnet. Honestly, it's not boasting, but people just gravitate to me so that they can share their feelings, they can share whatever they experience and their pain and stuff like that. And it's been like that throughout my life. And I don't think I'm going to change. One of the things I would tell the younger generation is to embrace it. Don't be ashamed. How I look at it is that I have life and I have accomplished quite a bit. So I embrace my age. Like, one of the things that a lot of people don't want to embrace is getting gray. For a long time, my kids would be like, Mom, why are you letting your hair go gray? But for me, I think that's just a part of the process. It's a natural process. And I will tell them to embrace the journey, because as you age, you learn more things. As you age, you've gotten a better, what would I say? You get a better grip on life, of the things that you have accomplished or the things that you can do. So embrace your age. Don't be like, oh, I can't tell anybody I'm 50 years old. I can't tell anybody I'm 40 years old. I want a birthday party for my 60th birthday, and I'm going to throw myself a party, because aging to me is that I am getting better. You age like fine wine. That's what I think. Ah, gosh, that's a good question. What's my favorite song? I have so many. Amazing Grace. Because it speaks to a lot of things that we go through. When you go through a lot of things in life, there's something that holds you. It anchors you. And that song, it's been around for ages, but it still has the effect I can hold on to that and just, sing it ever so often or hear it playing, and it will bring me back. It's like an anchor, so yeah, Amazing Grace. A fear that I had, honestly, I don't really know, like a fear that I could think of right now that I had. But one of the things is I always wanted to have kids. And when I started out, I was losing my children. And then I had 3 under 3. And then I was fearful that something would happen to my kids. And actually, I don't think about it now, but it's something that, still kind of plays in the back of my mind, that, I want to make sure my children are okay, and now my grandchildren. So I think that fear's always been around family. And then one of the biggest ones right now is that my mom's aging. I lost my dad 7 years ago. And as funny and as, very feisty as my mother is, I see her starting to slow down. And I've had so many dreams of her passing, and in the dream, I'm like literally bawling. And that's is one of the things that I know does affect me still, but I try not to dwell on it. Yeah. Yes, I do still have a lot of dreams and aspirations. Like I said, I want to continue acting, do some training on that, because it's a nice medium. And writing, I love to write, so I want to do more with my writing, and I would love to produce a couple of movies. That's one of the things I want to do. I have a few scripts already, so I want to produce my movie. And I also want to be able to leave a legacy for my children and grandchildren. That's something that I really, really still dream about, and, putting things in place that I can do that. So when God takes me, closes my eyes closed, that they can always remember, my mom. I can remember my mom did this, and this is what my mom did, So that's one of my dreams and goals, that when I go, that people would remember who I am, not for what I can give them, but for who I was as a person, Yeah, that's really what it is for me. It's important to talk about aging because we all age. The moment we're born, we're older, and we have to talk about it because there are a lot of problems with aging. Aging sometimes brings a lot of illnesses, right? There's chronic illnesses that comes with age. There's a lot of problems where people, you lose who you are. There's housing insufficiency. There's, children that don't care about their parents, which is a shame because your parents took care of you. Like all of those things I think about, and it's like we as a society, we need to think of the generations that are older than us, respect them. That is one of the things that I find is lacking, is that a lot of people do not respect the elderly. And I think that aging is a process that each one of us are going to go through, and that we should cherish the process, cherish one another, because at some point, you're going to get there. You are. Each one of us will get there. I chose to do this today because it just really spoke to me. Because people are always talking about, oh, I'm getting old, I'm so old, I can't do this and I can't do that. And it just spoke to me, and I wanted to be a part of it, just part of the process, part of putting my voice out there that people could understand about aging. That is not something to be afraid of, So this is why I did it. And chatting with you guys today has been really great. Just being able to talk about it, because like I said, I'm almost 60. In 7 months, I'll be 60 years old. So I am getting older. I'm going to get CPP, right? So that's part of the aging process. So, talking about it and sharing with others that it's okay to get older. It's not a stigma. You are aging, but you are still able to do a lot of the things. And if you're struggling with health challenges, it's still okay. You do what you need to do to get better, So I think it's nice to have the conversation, and I appreciate you guys for doing it.